And I would look at the smallest possible thing that you could possibly do, whether that's just like adding that extra piece of broccoli to your meal, and then that becomes your thing. And much more have it as a process-driven change rather than an outcome-driven change.
Welcome to the Mindful Paths podcast with Nick Day and Hari Kalymnios, where we explore the fascinating world of mindset, mindfulness, fitness, well-being, vitality, leadership, and of course, personal development.
Our goal is to provide you with insights to help you live a more fulfilling, happier, and healthier life.
So if you're striving to be a better parent, friend, leader, colleague, or boss, or if you simply want to be more mindful and aware of the world around you, then this Mindful Paths podcast is going to be for you.
We invite you to eavesdrop on our conversations, and we challenge you to discover a new insight to help you on your own journey towards personal growth and positive change.
So sit back,
relax, and let's begin our journey together
on the Mindful Paths podcast. Hey Hari, how are we doing today?
I'm good. Just been in the sauna and a couple of classes, so I feel human again after a busy few weeks. What about you? You've been in the car for all day, right?
No, not today. It was yesterday. Happy days. You know what? It's a weekend. We never really record at weekends. So I'm feeling vibrant. I'm feeling in a good space. Like I haven't just done 10 hours of work and I'm joining the podcast at the end of the day. We've got Christmas music playing. It's almost a spirit of Christmas coming in. What are we on today? So we're recording this before Christmas, right? It's the 16th of December. But I think we're going to publish this in the new year. And you know,
9 days. 9 days
Brussels on Monday. So we're going to do Christmas markets. We're going to do all the Christmassy things.
And you've got your hat on. I need to find my hat in the, I think I've got it in the garage. I saw it the other day. I've got like a Christmas hat like that. I'm not going to do a tree this year actually, because I'm probably going to head down to Brighton next Thursday anyway. And I don't want to take the tree down with me, I don't think. So I might go treeless this year.
Wow, no tree.
I know, well, it's different when you're by yourself. It's like, you know, you don't do all the things a lot of the time. Well, I don't do all the things. The last couple of years I've been doing a tree, but I'm not sure if I'm going to take it down or not. I might do it. Maybe I'll decorate with my niece on the 23rd if she's up for it. We'll see.
Reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever seen it, the Mr. Bean sketch where he has Christmas by himself at home. And you know what? I love it because he still makes all the effort. He tucks his little teddy up in bed, has a little mini stocking, has it all going. He still gets Christmassy. I'm not saying you should be tucking up little teddies in bed, but I don't know. If I was by myself, maybe I wouldn't.
That image quite sad. So, I mean, yeah, so I'm like, I don't know. It's actually better for me not to have all that sort of stuff sometimes. But anyway, as it is now the end of the year, and we're recording this before the end of the year, but it's going to go out in the new year. I thought maybe we talk about New Year's resolutions, goals, something like that. I think that this time of year, a lot of people, well, maybe not this time, in about 10 days' time, just after Christmas, people start to think about, you know, making changes, finally getting on that health kick, whatever. So I thought it might be quite an interesting one to talk about that. And firstly, I guess my question for you would be, do you actually make any New Year's resolutions yourself? Are you that kind of person?
Well, you know what? I do and I don't. What I'll say is I'm a bit of a sucker for excess at December. I kind of give myself total license to eat and drink and be merry. And a lot of my training goes out the window. I mean, look, I'm coming onto this show having just eaten 2 baked bean and cheese sandwiches, toasties, right? These aren't things I'd usually be eating in the middle of my training regime. But I'm thinking, you know what, why not? And it can be dangerous because you can go so far one way where you know, and I've done this before where I just go so far to excess that it takes 3 months literally to work it all off in the new year and it puts your training back. So there has to be a balance. But I'm not one for New Year's resolutions. I think particularly because my goals for next year are already set. I know which races I'm doing, you know, I've got Ironman this and certain goals and targets to meet. So I think they're kind of in place. But there is what I would say is I give myself December off, or I don't give myself such a hard time. And January is a time where I get back on to what is my 11th month of the year kind of training schedule. And if I don't do it, then, you know, I get myself further set back. So I am one of these people that from the 1st of January back into the fitness routine, will be a little bit better with my diet, we'll start cutting alcohol out and all those kind of things. But it's not because it's a New Year resolution. It's because it's kind of like flag in the sand. I'm starting again. Let's crack on. And until the next December, well, I'll probably ease off again. So I'm definitely in chill out training mode. It's cold outside, high risk of injury. I'm drinking more than I should. And, you know, I guess for me, that's part of the moment. I train so hard all year and work hard, as many people listening to this do as well, that I just think it's my chance to recover. And That's how I go about it. So is that a resolution? I don't know. For 1st of Jan, I'm back on the fitness wheel. That's for sure.
No, I mean, I guess it would depend, because it sounds like you're doing it as a cycle. So like, for example, if, for argument's sake, July was your month off because you're with the family doing holidays, then you'd be training from like August to June or something like that. But I think, I mean, for me, I've made resolutions in the past. Like, I remember once, probably must have been about 17, almost 20 years ago. I think it was almost 20 years ago. I remember the resolution of stopping alcohol, because I got really drunk on the New Year's Eve. And I thought, right, I'm not going to drink. And I actually went, and this was back in your 20s, so it's different now for me. But I went, I think, 5 months without drinking. I never set I'm going to do for the whole year or anything like that. But I said, I'm just not going to drink for now. And that was a resolution, and I did keep. But the reality is, and I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, although they are in my TEDx talk, but they're old numbers. But I think it's like 80% of people fail on their.
There we go. I've got some numbers for you. Prepared for this one. I knew we were talking about in advance. So researchers, and this is based on an American study, not the UK, but let's assume that we're relatively similar. Researchers suggest that 9% of Americans that make resolutions complete them. In fact, research goes on to show that 23% of them quit the resolution within the first week.
Yeah.
And 43% have quit by the end of January. So most resolutions fail. Yeah. However, I don't think that is necessarily a reason not to have one, because sometimes we need a trigger. And actually, if those 9% have changed things for the better, that's still a big percentage of people. If you think of the population of America,
I'm not sure.
Finding some success.
I'm not sure. I mean, I think the numbers I had in my talk were very similar as well. But I don't know if it is, because remember, that's an individual, right? So you're using it as a percentage of like talking about, okay, well, 9% of people are making change. But what about those 91% that then are reinforcing, I can't do the thing, right? I failed at another thing, right? For example. So here's my take on it now, because I don't really believe in New Year's resolutions, purely because the numbers show that they don't work for the vast majority of people. I do believe in having goals and having plans in place, but I think that where they fail, particularly, this is my thing with the whole thought gym stuff anyway, is that people are always trying to change a habit or behavior before the mindset behind the behavior. And so the 1st of January rolls around and you go, right, I'm going to, you've probably gone to gyms in January where they're like heaving, and then they're desperately empty by February, because they set their sights on too big a target. And also they tend to be a bit finite in length, where you go, right, okay, I'm going to do this for a year. It's too overwhelming. I would much rather people take, and as is the theme of a lot of the stuff I teach, that incremental, tiny change, and actually probably much, much smaller than you think. So way smaller than you think. I don't know what, so let's say the typical one is, right, I'm going to lose weight, which is also a phrase I don't particularly like, because if you think about it, when you lose things like your keys, you often look for them again. So I prefer the term release weight, because subconsciously your mind is thinking, I've lost this, I want to get it back. So I would say if someone's goal is to release weight, let's say in the new year, and they've got all these plans, right, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week, I'm going to eat just healthy food, I would scrap all that personally. And I would look at the smallest possible thing that you could possibly do, whether that's just like adding that extra piece of broccoli to your meal, and then that becomes your thing, and much more have it as a process-driven change rather than an outcome-driven change. Your goals for the new year sound like very much outcome-driven ones, right? Ironman, all these events, which have definitive timescales on. But I think for the majority of people, less important is the outcome and more important is the process, right? It's that moment.
Yeah, you know what, Harry, to a certain degree, I think I probably agree with a lot of the things you've just said. I don't necessarily see why that can't be part of a resolution. It's just that I think we have notions of grandeur with resolutions, which make us very hard to sometimes complete them. And I think you mentioned a point there with mine, which is, well, it's not a New Year's resolution, it's a goal I've already set, right? Which is I've got a race in next year, which I'm targeting. But that's about making your goals smart, measurable, time dependent, and all the things we need to do to get there, right? So I think that's something we don't often do. So if you use the example you gave about losing weight, it's not enough to say lose weight. If you're going to really make change, you need to know what you're going to try and do. What's your actual target, or when does it actually manifest as a result or a success? What I think is really important, though, I think that what I took from your response, we may view it slightly differently, but I do think when people make New Year's resolutions, we try and achieve too much, which is a slightly different way of putting what you said is we should start smaller. And the reason I say that is I think we tend to over predict what we can achieve in 1 year, but we massively, massively under predict what we can achieve in 5. And if we look back at what we expect to do this time last year, for anyone listening to this, where they set out those New Year's resolutions back in start of 2023, they were probably thinking, oh, that was actually unrealistic. But if you then go back 5 years and realize how far you've come from whatever resolution you made in 2018, you'd probably be really surprised with yourself. There are people that have started families, new careers, bought themselves houses or whatever, real monumental things in a person's life. And actually, we often think we're not capable of those things. And I think it takes a longer time frame than a year to hit the bigger goals, which I guess links to your point of start small, make it habit forming. And I think if everyone sort of not lowered their expectations, that's not what I'm trying to do, but make their goals in the SMART plan more realistic, which is the R in SMART, and more measurable, I think they therefore become more achievable, and we'll see those statistics go up. But what I just take it back slightly as well, what I think is really important in relation to a New Year's resolution, if you are someone that is a believer in them, maybe they've worked for you in the past, whether or not you and me have them or not, I do think it's really important that we take time to reflect on the year that's gone by. Now, we don't often do that as people. And I think although time is something that we've kind of created and we work around, I think it is an apt opportunity for everybody to take a moment to reflect on what we have achieved, reflect on what we've, being grateful again of what the things that we've gone through, the things we have around us, and then sort of go into the new year with gratitude and thankfulness and objectives as well. They don't have to be full on resolutions, but we have things that we want to try and achieve in the years to come. I think that's a really nice thing to do, because then it gives you an opportunity with all your family around you to not just reflect, but celebrate. And we don't celebrate our achievements enough.
Do you do that? Like, because I've done this in the past in a more formal kind of way in terms of, I haven't done it actually for a while thinking about it, and you've just prompted me to maybe dig it out. I remember we did it in various different ways when I was part of a mastermind group, which was like 4 of us. We used to meet up on a Zoom call every month and just like have 15 minutes each to talk about things. And at the end of the year, we'd often have like a sheet with a bunch of questions on. Some of them, I think, a friend of mine, he sent, were like from Tony Robbins. Others I've got myself. But so we used to go through like in your own time and just, like you say, like, what did I achieve this year? What could I have done better this year? How would I like to change things moving forward? Do you do something like that? Or are you just sitting down with you in your own thoughts? Or are you having a chat with your family or your
I think it's a bit of both. I think naturally I met with friends this week. I've been back to St Albans. I've met with different friends, tried to get myself around everyone to see everybody, and it's interesting hearing how people talk, because often as humans we're quite critical. Like, we talk about the things we haven't done in a year. When you meet up with friends, since I last saw you, I haven't really done anything, is what often you'll get a response. Oh, and I really was hoping to be here, but I'm not there yet. Yeah. And we're really critical. And I know that's a self-defense piece there, that we're often sort of critical of ourselves before we praise ourselves, right? It's survival instinct sometimes. But I think it's a natural instinct to be disappointed with what we've done, which is why I think it's worth going back 5 years, not 1, to realize how much you actually have achieved. And most people would have achieved way more than they ever would have predicted or anticipated. So going back to your question, I think I do all of those things. I definitely reflect by myself and think, okay, what am I pleased about this year? What have I really achieved? Where am I compared to last year or 5 years? I think 5 years is a better place to go, because then I can really feel proud of whatever I've gone through. I do that with family. So bring my dad into context. We know he's very unwell. He's in palliative care now. And since we started this show, he wasn't when we started the show. He was unwell. He's now in palliative. So, he's digressed, which is a shame. But there's a chance to be thankful that hopefully he's going to be around us for Christmas Day and we can celebrate that, which is beyond doctors' expectations. So that's definitely a family-based appreciation of, what an achievement, Dad. Well done. And let's celebrate that and have a glass of whiskey, whatever it is we decide to do to be thankful for that moment. I think there's other things in our family. So absolutely, do I talk to family about it? We've had 2 new additions to my family. Both my sisters have had kids, and their babies will be at Christmas, and Christmas is a great time to be around children. It's what it's all about. So I think there's a bit of all of that, really. That reflection of what we've done this year. We've had 2 new lives enter the world. Fortunately, we haven't had one leave it yet in our family, which is good. And then we know that's on the cards at some point. And I think I think it's important to reflect, going back to your initial question, on what I've achieved this year personally and what I should be thankful for, and also to do that in amongst those that you love. And I'll go back to the question or the thing I mentioned in our last show. There's a reason I love Christmas Day, because you're with the people you love, and there's no one else that needs me on that day. They're all around me. I don't need my phone, don't need the social media. It's a chance to have those conversations, actually. And it's those conversations that mean way more than a text exchange or whatever, because they're real, they're authentic, and you can have it with your family and say, you know what, well, what are you really happy about this year? What are you thankful for? What do you want to celebrate? What can we chink our glasses to and say cheers? And I think that's a really nice conversation to have.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, actually. We also had a new life enter this world this year. My sister had a baby, as I think I might have mentioned, in August. So there'll be a new baby at Christmas Day. And we're going to all do it at my sister's house. But it's interesting when you talk about reflecting on what you've achieved in a longer period of time, because I remember it was a few years back now. I don't know. I think it was 2017, and I remember I put this post on Facebook, actually, because that morning I felt a little bit low. So I was feeling a little low and depressed or whatever. And I believe it was the 7th of July, 2017, or was it 2015? Maybe it was the 7th of July, 2015, actually. And the reason I know that date specifically is because I was feeling like low about myself. And I was thinking, like I'd just broken up with my then girlfriend of 4 years a few months earlier. I think I was still injured. I had like this knee issue going on, and I was by myself in the flat for the first time in years. I wasn't used to. And I wrote on the post, I was feeling bad about myself. And then I reflected on the last 10 years. And I remember exactly where I was 10 years ago, because it was the 7th of July, 2005, which is when we had the London bombings, if you remember.
Yeah.
And I was at the time working at the London Stock Exchange, and it right around the corner from where the bombs went off. And we had to go to the disaster recovery site for the stock exchange and set it all up by myself, I think it was, or maybe with one other person. But I was thinking, I'm feeling low because I've broken up with my girlfriend, I've got a bust up knee, blah, blah. And I was like, actually, in the last 10 years, I've changed career, I've coached loads of people to help, I've had X amount of views on my YouTube video, I've published a book, and, I've done, sold courses online, I've done blah, blah, blah. And then
it's amazing.
And that's in 10 years, right? In that 1 year, maybe I hadn't done as much. And so it is interesting to reflect on a longer period of time, because like you say, it does take a while to achieve things. And you often don't notice it when it happens. Like I remember years ago, 2006 it was, I was doing the Tony Robbins personal power 2 thing. It was doing a goal setting thing there. And there he actually says, and it's quite good, you just put some music on, and he was talking you through it over about 5-10 minutes. And the idea was not to limit yourself, you just write lots of things. And so I was writing things like, climb Mount Kilimanjaro, go to Everest Base Camp, own my own property, blah, blah, blah. And I wrote about all these things, like hundreds of things maybe. And then I put it in the drawer, forgot about it, and then looked at it maybe 10 years later. And I was like, oh, actually, you know what? I have gone to Mount Kilimanjaro. I have done the Everest thing. I have bought my own property. And I was like, and that was without a structure, right? Without the smart stuff, without that. Just having it in.
But it's a great example, though, of where we underestimate what we can achieve in 5 years and 10 years, and massively overestimate in 1. I'll go back to that, because I think that's really important. I don't think we give ourselves enough credit. We're often so self-critical. I mean, you and I both know, we both got coaching clients. And I think one of the most common things, if not the most common thing that we come up against, or something that I do when I'm working with clients, is lack of self-esteem, lack of confidence, imposter syndrome comes up a lot.
Yeah.
And all these kind of terms which link to that self-depreciating view of the world that we often have, that we're not good enough, that we haven't achieved enough, that we have all these expectations, and if for whatever reason we don't achieve them, we feel either we're being judged or we're judging ourselves. People won't put things on social media because they don't feel they've quite got where they wanted to get to. So you put nothing out there, and you kind of, whatever it is, people are really self-critical of themselves. What's interesting though, and just hearing what you said there, and I know you're very good at this, but you're self-taught and you've made this a discipline. But when we say things to ourselves, we often don't believe them, because we also know what's buried in our subconscious, right? So we'll say, I'm really successful. I don't know, whatever it is, and because Harry says I'm successful, so I'm going to tell myself I'm really successful. And we get these mantras, and people will say, if you say this every day, you'll believe it. But if our subconscious doesn't believe it, doesn't matter how many times we'll say it, we won't. What can be really powerful is having someone else say it to us. I know something that's been really powerful in the coaching experiences that I've been involved in is when you're speaking to someone who's got, let's say, low self-confidence as an example, and they don't believe they've achieved enough. And they'll be talking to you about all the, I'll know them as a career coach as well, about what they've achieved in their CVs and what they've done over the periods and over months of working with a client. You'll get to know them really well. Is after a while, I'll say, well, let me just tell you about another client I've got. And I'll go into detail about that client. And let's say, they are business owner who's built a business that's worth 2 million quid. And this particular individual has hired 20 staff. And whilst doing that, they ran a marathon, they raised £5,000 for charity and And often the client will be there going, that person sounds amazing. Like, who is this client? I can't believe they've got self-confidence issues. And you're like, that client's you. Like, that's how I see you based on all the things you've told me over the last 6 months. And there's that moment of just going, but that person sounds amazing and that's not who I am. But we don't always appreciate that. So I think when you're with family and friends in the new year over Christmas, there's an opportunity as well. And it's a really fun exercise to do, is describe to others how you see them in a positive way. So I'd say, Harry, in the last year since we've known each other, mate, these are things I think are fantastic achievements in the way that I see you. You've never done a podcast before, and now you've hosted over 25 shows, and there's things we can do there that we may not give ourselves credit. And I think that's quite a powerful thing, because sometimes we'll listen to it more when it comes from someone else's voice, particularly if it's someone that we love or respect.
I think it reminds me when you were talking about that and believing in yourself. I think a career coach I had probably 12, 13 years ago, I think they said this first. I'm not sure if it was true or not that they said this, but I attribute it to them. But they said, if you're struggling to believe in yourself, find someone that believes in you and then believe in them instead.
That is, I've not heard that before, but that sends me a little shiver generally, because that's literally what I've just tried to describe, but way more succinctly, and it's powerful. And you know what a great thing to do. I mean, it links to it's not the how, it's the who. If you want to achieve something, if you are doing a New Year's resolution, you're goal setting and you're tapping into your vision, don't get completely caught up in the how. It's the who believes in you, who can you lean on to help you achieve whatever it is that is. If that's a fitness goal, which they often are with resolutions, you mentioned losing weight. I think the most common one we tend to come across is, in the new year, I'm going to get fitter, healthier, more productive, or whatever.
Yeah.
But actually, if you do that alone, you're more likely to fail. So who's the accountability coach you can work with? Who's the fitness coach? Where's the gym? All the things, go and do the things that enable you to do the thing you need to achieve.
What I'm thinking through this discussion is, for the listeners that are listening, I'm veering more away from those kind of goals and resolutions. And I would say possibly think about, instead of goals like those external goals like that, maybe think about either internal goals or what I would say character goals. So for example, maybe it's my goal is, my New Year's resolution is just to smile more when I see people, or it is to start my gratitude list, or it is to hold the door open a bit more often, or to make eye contact when I'm buying something from Sainsbury's instead of just tapping and going. Something like that, which is really small, achievable, and actually might, it's something that you could do every day, I think would be actually probably more beneficial. And I'm not saying don't have the other goals, but also the challenge with those is that, like I said before, often you're setting these goals without addressing the mindset that drives the behavior. And this is the whole reason that I wrote the first book, The Thought Gym, is because people go into that New Year's resolution mode of trying to lose weight, get fit, whatever the thing is, and they don't address the behavior that's behind it. And then when they quit in third week of January or fourth week of January, they might feel crappy about themselves. So I would say actually have those goals, but have them and start them at another time of the year, and also not necessarily have an extended period of time that you're going to do it for. Just say, this week I'm going to just go for like 3 walks around the park or something, and have it really, really small. But then at New Year's, maybe just think about a character goal. And I think that's what I might do this time, actually.
I agree with you, Harry. And, sometimes we debate, sometimes we agree. We see the world and our values are similar. And I think in this instance, I'm totally on board. There's a saying that vision drives decision, but I think sometimes we can get lost in that, where we go, I'm going to, in the example you've given, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to get fitter, whatever. But actually the target at the end of that isn't just to lose weight. It's the feeling of being healthier, so that you can be there as a support person to your mum when they need it, or to your family when you need them, so that you elongate your life to be around for longer, whatever the long thing is. You mentioned to smile more. Well, often we sign up for these massive projects or disciplines or targets or whatever with the idea that we're going to get enjoyment. But actually, sometimes there's a lot of people will say, and it's certainly in the world of coaching, that a goal is somewhere to come from, not to go to. So if you break it down, and one of mine is, after someone said to me, Nick, I find it really hard to work from home because I realized I've got no one to laugh with. And when I work from home, I never laugh. So a small goal in that instance for me would be, I want to laugh every day. So I now make an effort to, every single day since that person said it to me, I've tried to make sure there's a call I have, whether it's through Zoom or whatever. If I can't meet people, I have a call with someone. And I had a great chat with someone called Margaret Ocheng, who I think is wonderful, on Friday. And I told her about this, and she's, I haven't heard from me for ages. I said, you know what? I need to laugh every day. Every time we chat, we laugh. So you're the person I've decided I'm going to call today and just reconnect with, and make sure that while I'm working from home, we reconnect, which builds that social bubble, but also we laugh as well. Now, there's other things. Some people might go, I need to laugh every day. So my New Year's resolution is I'm going to sign up to a comedy course and learn stand-up comedy. But it's the wrong way round. Like if that's going to a goal, not coming from it.
I actually had a similar goal. I had an exact same goal, actually, or not necessarily a goal, but observation of myself a few years back, because I remember the girlfriend I had way back when, I would laugh every day. I didn't realize that until we broke up. And then laughter fits into my beat model, actually. It's under that activity section about play and fun and laughter, because it's so good for the body. And I think in my book, the one that I will release in a few months, I talk about laughter in a bit more detail with the studies and so on. But if you don't have the opportunity to laugh, because when I'm with my nieces and things like that, you're always laughing because there's always fun.
And it's natural and authentic.
But I'm not there all the time.
Bring out of us.
So for me, it's about finding, maybe I'm not having those conversations. I should find someone I will laugh with on conversations, but I tend to watch like even just something funny that I know will make me laugh on Netflix or wherever. So I can laugh out loud. Now, I'm not doing that every day, which is something that I would like to work towards for sure, because laughter is so important, I think, and it's really underrated. But there's even like things like laughter yoga. I don't know if you've ever come across that.
I have. So I don't know, laughing yoga. I've seen other laughing kind of sessions you can go in, have laughing groups.
Yeah.
But I think, you were talking about smiling more. I think there's a really important message in there. And when it comes to resolutions, in fact, when it comes to Christmas, I know this is going to come out after Christmas, but resolutions, we tend to, if you think about it we think they're positive, but actually they're often negative, because we focus on as you said earlier, the thing we don't have. So we don't have that thing. So next year I'm going to focus on having that thing, rather than, you could argue that a better way of seeing a New Year's resolution is to focus on being ungrateful on what we already have. Whether that's the ability to smile more, the ability to laugh more. We don't have to go for that thing. And I'm as guilty of this as anybody, right? And my wife was the first to, I say, pull me back onto the right path. I've mentioned this before, I think, but I had signed up to do my PhD, and I wanted to take my coaching experience to another level in the world of the brain and how neurons work together, all those kind of things. And I was like, you know what, I'll do a PhD, and I got onto the course. So I was due to enroll and follow it. I had my interviews and all that stuff. But actually, it was me searching for something that I thought, when I have that thing, then I'll be credible.
Yeah.
And it's because I don't feel that I'm credible enough internally. That's a problem with me. It's not a problem with the qualification. I can read all the same books. I read all the books anyway. And you find out if you get the reading list for the course and you realize you've read half of them already, it's not about that. The qualification doesn't suddenly make you credible. No. But it does, because I have an insecurity, potentially, if that's the right word, and I don't feel that I'm worthy enough at the moment to be able to write in that way or be credible.
This goes back to our conversation a few months ago where you didn't really kind of get it for me, but like where I was talking about the difference between being certified and qualified. Yeah. And we were having this discussion because I was saying I'm a certified yoga teacher, but do I feel qualified? And there's a difference between, so for me internally, qualified is that internal confidence that you are qualified to actually deliver and coach or whatever. And then certified is someone else is saying, okay, you paid me $5,000 to do this course. Here's a piece of paper.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying people shouldn't have a New Year's resolution to go and do that degree that you've been yearning to do for years and years, and maybe next year is the year you're going to sign up to do it, right? You've got to find your own goals and wills and wants and whatever. But I know for me, I was signing up not really because I don't really care if someone calls me doctor or not. That wasn't that bit. It was, for me, I felt like I needed that level of credibility. But actually, I'd be sacrificing 6 more years of time, part-time with my family, with my wife. And one of the things that are really important to me, that feeling of being credible to external people that actually predominantly don't know me anyway. Or do I really want to be present for my family now and get the love and support that I want, so that I'm there for them. And they already, I'm not trying to get credibility from them. So I was out of balance, really. And that would have been, for me, would have been an incorrect resolution for me next year to go, next year's the year I do my PhD. It'd be coming from the wrong place. It's focusing on the thing I don't have, not the things that I do. So a better resolution would actually be along my lines of spend an extra 10 minutes every day with my kids. And that's achievable. It's small, as you mentioned. It's something I can measure very easily. And I might pick a particular day. So every Tuesday evening, I'm going to take my daughter bowling, which I do, but I'm going to continue that. And every Friday, I'm going to take him to tennis, or whatever, my son's tennis. They're small things that mean a whole world, a whole lot more than some of the achievement-based outcomes we look for.
I've wrestled with that same thing about the PhD myself, like probably a few years ago, and other additional qualifications where I'm like, okay, do I feel credible enough? Should I get this? Should I get that? And I thought, hang on a second, and I probably came to the same conclusion as you, right? Am I getting it for the right reasons, right? And I think that my master's definitely put me off, because I felt like in a certain degree, I'm not in that academic mindset, in that I feel like some of the academic work is a little bit behind the times a lot of the time and slow to change. And so I felt, okay, I have that qualification now, or that certification, but do I really want to go further with things? And is it just a case of putting things off because you don't believe in yourself enough, that you go, okay, I'll be happy when, I'll be happy if,
that's it.
Qualified if, right? If then,
when I lose that weight, then I'll be happy. When I make that million, then I'll be happy.
It's like, no, you've got to thing. Be, do, have, right? Be happy, then you'll have the thing, and then you do the thing, rather than, oh, when I do this, I'll be this way. That's not how it works in life. And I think that's a lot of time with people with happiness. They go, yeah, when I've got that house, I'll be happy. Or when I've got this, I'll be happy. You're always going to be searching, right? Happiness is an inside job for a lot of time. And there are people who are maybe like starving, third world, having all these things, and they can still find time to be happy. Because
I mean, look, I think there's lots of evidence that says socioeconomic status doesn't define happiness, right? You can be rich and incredibly.
In fact, actually, I've got a book called Being Happy by, was it something Matthews? One of the best books, actually. Speaking of books, because a lot of people think about books for New Year, but I think I mentioned it to you before, but it's by the same author, Andrew Matthews or something like that. But it's called How Life Works. I really recommend that, and I also recommend that for you, because it's kind of like a coffee table book, but it's not very thick, and it's got like illustrations, so I think it's readable from the age.
I love the way you said that. I think it'd be good for you, Nick, because there's not much writing and there's lots of pictures. No, I'm joking.
No, not for that reason though. I'm
teasing.
Because you can put it down, and then maybe your children will pick it up and start to read it. I think from about the age of about 11 or so, 12, it's a readable book, or maybe even 10. But if you want to wrap up all the personal development books like Think and Grow Rich and The Secret and guys, what are some of the other classics? Oh, How to Win Friends and Influence People. If you want to wrap all those up and get someone to be able to read, and actually my mum read this. My mum read this book like 5 years ago, because I put it to her, and she never reads anything, and she was like, oh, that's really good. And she actually took it with us when we hired this house in Miami for Christmas, and the whole family went there for Christmas about 5 years ago, kind of in the hope that other people would, like, you leave it on the coffee table, pick it up, flick through it and stuff like that. So I really recommend How Life Works. And the other book is Being Happy, or How to Be Happy, which is by the same author.
Well, if we're talking books, there's a coffee table book I would hugely recommend. I've bought it several copies for several friends and family in the past as well. It's a wonderful, wonderful book, wonderful for children and adults. And it's called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse. And you probably know it, Harry.
I don't actually.
It's a wonderful, wonderful book. It's for kids. It's just pretty much a saying, a line on the book, and everything is just pretty profound, and it keeps people in the right places.
What age would they be reading that?
I mean, Leo could easily pick it up. Equally, you'd look at it. The illustrations are wonderful. I'm trying to think there's a it'll say things like, is your glass half empty or half full? Asked the mole. I think I'm grateful just to have a glass, said the boy. That's an example of what's on the page.
Let me look it up. What's it called?
It's called the Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse.
Okay, got it.
By Charlie Maxey. You can get it for like £6 now. It's a wonderful book. Honestly, every illustration, every page is one to be remembered and be thankful for. It's a really, really good book. However, if you don't want a coffee table book, this is what I can say it now, because it'll be published in the new year, because I bought this one for my Christmas and I don't want to give my mum's presents away. before she's opened it, but this will be published after she's opened it, which is a book I mentioned before called Letting Go. Got it here.
I've got that up here.
The Pathway of Surrender by David R. Hawkins.
Yeah, but interestingly, this is the one that I recommended to you last week by the same author, Power versus Force.
And I know you did because I picked it up.
Perfect.
See, I do listen, sir. He's also written another book called The Map of Consciousness Explained, which I haven't read yet.
It's so good that you've got to Letting Go, because obviously
I've read it already, by the way. I finished Letting Go a while ago, but I bought it for my mum because I think it'll be helpful for her with my dad. You'll see the space in there about grief and other things, but when that time comes. But it's just a wonderful book, and it's called Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender. And I just recommend it to a couple of guys at work as well, actually. It's not a coffee table book.
I found it very interesting because it was for me, I really loved Power versus Force. It's one of my top books of all time, I think. But I really didn't get on with Letting Go because I felt like I walked away and maybe you can help me out with this, but I didn't quite know what was the thing. What was the nuggets? What was the 5-step process to letting go? So I might have missed it. I might not have paid enough attention, but
I don't think there is a 5-step process. Although actually, I'd say one thing I've taken away from it so far, which links, I think, to what we've been talking about today and New Year's resolutions and everything else in terms of what we try and achieve, very much that what's happening externally, what's happening in the world, or the way that we show up is really a reflection of what's really going on the inside.
Yeah.
And, that's based on our subconscious beliefs and our experiences and therefore our interpretations of them, right? So if we're able to let go of those things, then we don't need to show up externally. We don't need to try and reflect those insecurities in the way that we do. Sometimes people struggle to get hold of this. So a simple example I would give, I think he does this in the book. It's early on in the book, but a simple example would be like a bully at school. Now, often they show up as being this bully, this aggressor, because they really struggle internally at home. Maybe something's gone at home where they have lack of self-confidence, or you get the promiscuous individual who's really sexually open and flamboyant, but actually you realize that they really lack self-confidence or whatever it is. And we show up we use our ego to show up. And if we let go of that, then we can really get in touch with who we really are and not worry about what other people think. And I wonder how many resolutions people are making right now to link it to what we're talking about today. How many of those listening to this at the moment are making or planning to make a resolution that links to how other people think?
I mean,
let that go and focus on what you really want, and you might find it changes the resolution you're about to make.
Yeah, I think as you were saying, but a phrase I've heard that I like is your outer world is a reflection of your inner world.
Yeah, I mean, you said something brilliant. Happiness is from the inside out.
It's an inside job. It's an inside job.
That was quite, I never heard that before. I picked that up when you said it.
It definitely is. And also, it was interesting when you talked about bullies, because I was thinking, I heard this phrase. I think it was from Sean Stevenson, who runs the excellent Model Health Show, which I really recommend as a health podcast. But he always says, "Hurt people, hurt people." So people, hurt people.
Yeah.
And I often talk about that when I'm in front of students, because sometimes bullying comes up as a speech that they talk about, or there'll be bullying going on in the room, right, that I notice. And I'm always like saying things like that, right? Hurt people, and actually there's something going on, or who's not loving you enough, or who's treating you that way, that actually makes you, because basically happy people don't lash out. If you think about like when you're first in love with people, right? Suddenly nothing can bother you, right? You could get stuck in traffic, or like a car come past and splash a puddle of water over you, and you're still finding it like the joyful days when you're in love.
Yeah.
And it's not the thing, right? It's never the thing. It's always your response to the thing that is important. And this is one of those fundamental truths that I tell people.
I had a meeting with someone at work, and obviously for confidentiality reasons, I won't give who that person was, but I'll give you a little bit of context behind the conversation. So there was something that the individual was thinking about emailing out, and he said, I decided to hold back because it may have offended or whatever the individual that was about to receive it. And I thought, no, but it would have been funny, is what he said. I said, right, okay. Hold on to that for a minute. Where in your value chain, when you consider who you are as an individual, when you describe yourself to your kids, or if someone was writing a eulogy about who you are, how would you want to be described? How would you want to be thinking? He said, well, I wanted people to talk about how I was really loyal, I was really trustworthy, I was always there for them. I said, it's okay, where would humor and you being the funny guy, where would that rank? And he's like, well, it wouldn't really. So I said, so the only, if you think about, it's good you didn't send it, but the idea being that the only reason you wanted to send it really was to show everyone else in the room that you're funny. But that's not what people are looking for. No, not looking for, and actually in doing so, you would have potentially upset another individual in the room. So at their expense, you would have been seen as the funny guy. For something would have been forgotten straight away. What you want to be seen as actually is the loyal guy, the guy that can be trusted upon, the guy that can do all these different things. And that's way more valuable. And it's a bit like, you talked about the meaning of life. I think for you, it's quite defined. But life, if you think about the meaning of life, it's not about getting what you want, i.e. being seen as the funny guy. It's about seeing who you are and being comfortable with that. If you're not the funny guy, I don't mind admitting, I'm certainly not the funniest in my group of friends. And I'm quite happy with that. I've got some guys I'm good friends with who are way funnier than me. But I don't think they're friends with me because of my humor. They're friends with me because I hopefully bring other qualities to the table, which are loyalty, which are the ability to be trusted, the ability to be there for them, a 24-hour friend at any moment. They're different qualities that we rely upon. And I think if we're able to see who we really are, we kind of are able to understand what we really, I don't like the word need, but what we really want, I guess, from life. Because I think it's a different question. We often want more because we feel like we need it for others, but we don't create from what we have, do we? We create from what we are. So there's a different thing there. It's a tough thing probably to comprehend, but
I'm just
we
thinking
often try and resolve the things that we're not happy with by our pain or insecurities, by looking outside, by looking at the external.
Yeah, that's the point. Like when you want something, it's coming from a sense of lack. And I think when you realize that and this sounds so cliche, but as we say, every cliche's got some sort of element of truth. But when you realize you've got everything you really already need, then you don't want for anything. And okay, yeah, we're not talking like foundational needs of shelter and food and things like that, but it's those superfluous needs that often we want. And actually, it's hard for me to articulate it, but I think it's kind of finding inner peace, I think, is I guess the phrase going for.
I agree. I mean, we're not going to find what we want looking outside of ourselves, right? We need to look inside. You said it. You said the word earlier. Happiness is an inside job, and I love that. I've not heard it before, and it resonates, and it is. If we think about family, Christmas, and New Year's, bring it back into context of today's conversation, right? Our resolution might be next year I'm gonna make my first million, but actually, if suddenly, if it's not my resolution, but let's say it was, or someone's listening saying, "Oh, next year I want to make X, Y, Z." If suddenly my son was unwell, I mean, I wouldn't give two shits about the money. Yeah. You'd be there for your son or your daughter or whatever. It brings other things right into sharp focus. But we often are trying to achieve that thing externally. So we think when we get that thing, it will make us happy. But often we've got happiness all around us. It's just we don't appreciate it's there because we're not looking in that direction. We're looking often in a direction that we think will allow us to get a better version of judgment from others that we think at that point will be happier. I want to be, when I live in Australia or wherever it is, because that my friend lives out there and looks sunny all the time, then I'll be happy. It's like you've got everything you need around you right now, which is why you mentioned earlier, and very what's the word I'm looking for?
Astutely,
poignantly, I think. The socioeconomic piece. You mentioned earlier, you can be wherever you are and living in destitute, but you could still. That doesn't. We assume because we have these things that means they're unhappy. It's not.
I think for me, some of it comes up at Christmas because I think so many people lose sight of that fact, and I've got family members as well, and it's all fair enough. They've got kids, and kids is all about the presents, but it's not really about the presents. It's about the presence, and I think that's the best gift you can give to people, especially these days, is be present rather than give presents, because so many of us are lost in our mobile phones and everything else. And I think like just understanding that this time of year, it's not about the gifts, right? It's about connection. It's about being with the people you love. It's about celebrating your health if you are lucky enough to have it, or the health of other people. I think that's what it's really important. Whereas I think the commercialization of pretty much every month, there's some sort of commercialization of some date because people want to make money, right? Nothing wrong with that. It's just that I think that more and more society, especially when I spend, like I said before the call, I was probably in front of about 2,000 young people a year, around 14, 15. And your children are being brought up largely not just by parents or teachers, but by the environment around them, which includes now the digital environment. And I think I was at a school the other day, and they were having some sort of drop-down day, or it was, I think, a non-uniform type day. And the amount of girls who are probably about 15 years old, maybe 16 years old. And every photo, they kept going to the bar. It was like one of these communal toilet things that also teachers had to use, and it was all in an open space. So where you wash your hands and the mirrors and everything. And they're like, they're taking photos as selfies and with like the Instagram pout type thing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, this is such a shame. Like, and I see this sometimes with my nieces when they take a picture. It's like it's like the Zoolander kind of blue steel or whatever. And I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know. I just feel
it is a shame because it puts a huge amount of pressure as well on conformity and showing, having as a parent of a teenage girl, right? And I'm sure at some point we'll talk about some of the things we've had to work through as a family on the show at a later date. But I can say that some of the social thing is very, very dangerous. I think if I had a lesson again, and you mentioned mobile phones, actually there is thinking about it, and I'll come back to where I was going in just a moment. There is a resolution I'm going to make today, and it was actually delivered of something I saw by Simon Sinek. I'll come back to it. So, having not believed in resolutions, there is a habit I'm going to try and change, and I'll go back to that in just a moment.
You're going to try and change, or are you going to change?
Yeah, going to change. Yeah, I'm more because a lot of these changes. It's about raising awareness. We need to be more aware of who we are in the world and how we show up. And that's what coaching does. Raising awareness. So that's something. It raised my awareness in me that I hadn't appreciated, and I'll tell you what that is in a moment. But with the mobile phone thing, then I think anyone parents listening to this, delay giving a mobile phone to your kid for as long as possible, unless you really need to, because it changes things very quickly. It heaps loads of pressure on them. Yes, they can be more connected to the world, but the question is, do you want them to be? Because the outside world can be quite a dangerous place, particularly if you're in that place of comparison. Comparison is a thief of joy, never more so in the teenage years when all you're doing is comparing yourself to everyone else. It's dangerous. And linking that to Christmas, right? We want to connect with life, not stuff or money. You said the presents, people around you, connect with the people around you, not with the stuff, not with the money, not with the thing. Because most happiness comes from caring for others anyway, right? The idea of giving to others, that's the bit that really gives us, innate happiness often in the world. But I'm going to go two things. So one is a saying I think you'll like, which I think linked to something you were saying a minute ago, and I'll go back to my New Year's resolution piece in a minute, is you need to change your current view of reality if you want your current reality to change.
Yeah.
Which I really like, right? And that's a really good time to do that is New Year's Eve, or when you're going to go into the new year. If you've got these ideas, what's your current view of reality? Because you need to change it if you want your current reality to change. Really, really powerful stuff.
I think before you go into your New Year's resolution, actually, something I wanted to say on that, because I need to give you my book, because the book in here, even one of my first quotes, but it's similar to that, but it's by Wayne Dyer. It's either Wayne Dyer or Zig Ziglar, depends who said it, but change the way that you look at things, and the things that you look at change.
Yeah, that's very similar.
Basically the same thing. And it's so true. And I've tried to tell that to a lot of people, and a lot of people don't get these things when I tell them. But when I started to really resonate with that quote, maybe 15 years ago or 12 years ago, and I started to change, like I think we've talked about the story of where I was walking down the street and it was a grey day, and I was thinking, well, what miserable day. And I was thinking, oh, hang on a second, the day's not miserable, right? Day doesn't have feelings like that, right? It's just a grey day, right? It's a rainy day, but it's how I look at it. How do I look at the day? And then suddenly things changed, and like my relationships changed, and my success changed, and everything changed because I changed the way I looked at things. And I think it's such an appropriate quote, the one that you said with reality as well.
There's another one I've mentioned before, right? Your day does not dictate your mood. Your mood dictates your day.
Yeah.
And interestingly, so Kirsten, who listens to this show, hopefully she doesn't mind me saying this, because I sent her this afterwards by text. It's similar to the two quotes we've just given, but she was worried about a particular thing that may or may not happen. And I was saying to her, look, we don't know if it's going to happen yet. But she said, but I feel angry and I feel fearful. I was like, all these things you don't know. You created a reality for yourself that doesn't yet exist. Like just go and do the thing and see what happens. But she goes, yeah, but I know it's going to be this way, and I'm sure you don't actually know anything. The future hasn't happened yet. So just like chill. And anyway,
that reminds me of something I said to the students yesterday, which is a Mark Twain quote. I don't know if you've heard this or not, but it says, I've had a lot of worries in my life. And he says here, most of which never happened, or some of which even happened. And that's the thing, is we worry, and I've got worries at the moment, and like I'm thinking, actually, most of the time these things that we worry about don't materialize.
Well, in this instance,
energy.
I dropped Kirsten a message and said, so how was the thing? And she was like, oh, yeah, it never happened. Everything
Yeah.
about didn't happen. I was like, well, here's a great example of where you think you have a reality problem. In reality, you have a thinking problem, which is very similar, I guess, to the Mark Twain concept.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all stuck in our thoughts. If we can let go of the feelings, actually, that we have, often the thoughts will disappear with them. But anyway, going to the New Year's piece then. So here's a habit-forming change, and it's inspired by Simon Sinek. And I saw one of his videos, and he was doing a talk holding his mobile phone in his hand. And he was like, who here is distracted? Who here thinks I'm really present while I give this talk, while I have this mobile in my hand? I'm not looking at it, but I'm holding it. So who here thinks I'm fully engaged? And everyone's like, well, you don't. He said, right. So who here, when you're having that conversation with your wife or your partner, or you're going out for dinner and you have your phone with you, you put it on the table. And he said, many of you, and it's something that I do, I put it on the table, but I'll turn it over. And he said, oh, here we go. And he did it. He puts it on the table. He turns it over and goes, now who thinks that I'm fully present? And he said, you're not. It's that we've created a situation in the world now where just the sight of a phone, we associate with distraction and not being present. So whether or not you are present or not, having that thing in view turned upside down is a sign to the person you're with that you're only 90% engaged, because if something goes off, you're going to turn it over. And it's something that I do. And it's something that I think I do when I am present, because I've turned it over.
You did that with me. You did that with me.
There you go. I'm sure I did.
My phone literally is behind the screen, right? Because if it's in front, if it's by so this is what I do. I literally put it behind the screen, because otherwise it becomes a distraction. I tell this to people all the time.
So we're talking about raising awareness, right? So it raised awareness in me because I viewed it from the different viewpoint of watching him explain it.
Yeah.
And I'd never, not because I wasn't trying to be rude or belligerent or stubborn with it. I just never saw it from that perspective. I thought in turning it over, that was me being present. And it isn't. When you see it from a different view, it changes your perspective. And it's changed my perspective. So now my plan, and it's not just the new year, it's from the day I saw that video, which was about 3 days ago. So it's not New Year, but obviously it'll apply in the new year. One little change, one habit forming shift I'm going to make is to make sure that when I'm around in those situations, it's either not with me at all, it's in my bag and out of sight, or it's just not there in a space where, although I might have it on silent and turned over, it's a distraction for the other person because they don't know what settings I've got turned on. All they can see is it's in their eye line. Is he fully engaged or is he not?
Exactly. And they're competing for your attention with that phone. So they're constantly thinking, is something more important than this moment right now? And I actually don't even like having my phone in my pocket when I'm presenting, because I feel it as a distraction in my pocket. So when I'm presenting or anything like that, I have it in the bag away from me. Otherwise, it becomes a distraction. But did I tell you, I thought we discussed the twin study. I thought we discussed the twin study about the mobile phones on the table. If not, very quickly.
Perfect.
There was a twin study. I think there was like 30 groups of twins, and they took them for IQ tests, like non-verbal reasoning.
No, we haven't done this. I haven't dispersed heard of it.
So this was actually, I think, one of these BBC programs that maybe one of those Van Tolkien twins did years ago. And they took like 30 groups of twins and they had them do IQ tests. One group of twins, they were said, right, you can have your mobile phone just on the table, but you can't look at it for the answers or anything. You can have it on the table. The other group, you have to have your mobile phones in the locker. And there was a statistically significant and marked difference of about 10 IQ point difference between the twins, of the people that had the phone in the locker scoring higher than the people that had the phone on the table. And I use that study quite often to tell people the same thing. Like, you think that you're being present and you think it's not a distraction. But I remember when we were chatting, I think last April, and because you have a lot of notifications on your phone.
I do. I mean, you're burying me now, aren't you, Harry? That's fine.
You have because when we were talking and you didn't have the phone upside down at the time and you had it flipped around, and there was notification. I saw them. And it was like, Sky News talking about so and so getting transferred to this. I'm like. And I don't say anything because I'm like, okay, whatever. But I actually get really irritated when phones are there on the table. So I actually thought about having a dinner party, and I think this might be maybe this is something interesting to do if you host dinner parties. I don't host that many. Is host a dinner party and then just give like a little bowl where all the mobile phones go into at the beginning of the night.
I think they call that a different type of party, Harry.
No, right. That's keys. That's car keys.
I'm teasing.
But put the phones in and obviously if they've got kids, give them a number that they can call or whatever. But see how uneasy people become. But then after that, let's see how that changes the conversation where you can't look up things on Google.
Well, look, I'm going to say to people, I'll try and find the link of the video I saw. It's had a profound impact on me in terms of understanding how I'm showing up in the world, and that's raised my awareness. So
share it to me because
I want to be
share
better.
it to
So it's a good thing. There may be others listening to this that want to watch the video and feel the same. So I'll try and share the link. Is that a resolution? I don't know.
I think so. I think that's the character resolution.
Coincide with the timing of a new year, right?
Well, that's the character resolution we were talking about. And this is what I would suggest to people to do for, instead of New Year's resolutions of big goals, is things like you've just talked about, where you're thinking, okay, I want to be more present. So actually a small thing I can do is keep my phone in my bag when I'm having a conversation and a coffee with people. Right?
And you know what, it links to where happiness really comes from, which is, as you say, from the inside, but also from servicing and caring for others. And am I really being there for others if they feel I'm distracted? So yeah, I thought a nice place to come full circle. It's been a good chat. We've agreed on quite a lot today, Harry, which is a nice.
I think we agree on a lot. We agree
shift in the wind.
It's all good. It's all good. But yeah, share that video. I'll try and send it to a couple of choice friends.
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes this is also a great example of where seeing something is different to hearing it. I know we're doing an audio podcast, so we do release this in video format as well.
Hearing
but
it from someone else.
You and I talk a lot on this show, and sometimes it'll resonate with people, sometimes it won't. But watching something can have a different impact. And seeing if Simon Sinek was on audio, I don't know if it had the same impact it would have had on me if I hadn't seen him do it.
Well, something I've noticed is, because I listen back to our episodes just because often I hear something that I don't hear in the moment. And so I listen to every episode that we record. And I do, when I hear you talk about things the second time or in a different perspective, it resonates, or I get it more than when I'm having that live conversation with people. So I think it's, and also just hearing from other people, like you say, Simon Sinek says it, and it's going to resonate more with you, because sometimes I say you can't be a prophet in your own land. And sometimes when you're so close to a person trying to give you advice or information, you don't want it. But then you hear it, and you have to be the right person at the right time to hear the right message from the right messenger. I
think that's relevant between our conversations sometimes, right? Sometimes we get a little bit argumentative because we're trying to, I don't know, sometimes we're coming from different places. So you'll have a view and it's not that I disagree. I'm trying to put it into the minds of the masses that listen, and it's trying to view things from different perspectives. And, sometimes it comes across that way. But actually, I think one thing we can say is we've got a huge amount of respect for each other. And that's why we do this show, right? Our values are, we have different lives, different lifestyles, different family setups. But ultimately, we're trying to help everyone to see that we need to connect with what's on the inside, not what's on the outside. And hopefully there's some things in all of our shows which people can listen to and go, well, actually I do that, or maybe I can change that. And it's raising awareness. That's raising awareness.
That's what it all is, right? Step number one, right? Awareness.
And funny enough, it seems we have all the same books, so there's obviously something in line there, Harry.
Well, there you go. Yeah, we've got a few to get through. So I actually need to get a bit more reading done. I've slacked off recently, but I do enjoy a good book. And like I said, Power versus Force. Have you read that one yet?
No, it's next. I've just finished Letting Go for the second time. So again, but like you said, we listened to something more than once. The first time I really enjoyed it. I finished it going, I need to, and I don't think I've ever read a book twice because I think there's too many books in the world to read. But on this instance, I wanted it all to fully settle. I think you said you read it and didn't quite get the thing. Maybe that's what compelled me to read it again. The second reading has been really, really powerful.
Yeah. Okay. I might do that. I might do that as something. Yeah. Because often, like when you reread a book, it's not that you see something new in the book that you didn't see. It's that you see something new in you that you didn't see. So that might be why it feels different. All right, I think you've got to go and do some.
I do. I've got parental responsibilities and piano lessons to attend to. So, Happy New Year, sir. I know this is going out in the new year. I know it's not even Christmas now, so I think it's still okay to say Merry Christmas as well. But more importantly, Happy New Year, Happy 2024. Looking forward to the next show, which will be in the new year. So if there is a gap between episodes, it'll be because we're out celebrating Christmas with our families. But we'll try and keep it consistent as much as we have done. And let's keep going.
All right, nice one. Well, have a good start to your new year, everybody listening in, and have a Merry Christmas, Nick, who is going to have Christmas next week with everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy New Year to all our listeners as well. Thanks for staying with us. Do subscribe, keep sharing the show, and we'll look forward to being next episode real soon. Cheers, guys.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Mindful Past podcast with Nick Day and Hari Kalymnios.
We hope you found our discussions insightful and hopefully you've gained some valuable takeaways to support you on your own journey.
Please leave us a review on your preferred podcast platform and share an episode that resonates with you with a friend or family member who may also find it valuable.
Please also don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to ensure you never miss a future episode. And in the meantime, we'll continue exploring mindful path topics to provide you with more insights and more ideas to support you on your personal growth journey.
Thank you for your support and look out for the next episode of the Mindful Paths podcast dropping soon.